The political future of Keir Starmer is hanging by a thread after a shocking revelation from the UK's highest court. For the first time in modern history, a sitting Prime Minister has faced a public rebuke from the Supreme Court, accusing him of financial misconduct so severe it could shatter his career. Undeclared luxury gifts, hidden land deals and financial irregularities now paint a picture of a man who may have played by a completely different set of rules, one reserved for the elite. The fallout is already beginning, but what does this mean for Starmer's leadership, his future, and the very trust the British public places in its government? In an unprecedented move, the UK Supreme Court has delivered a damning verdict on Prime Minister Keir Starmer, one that could bring his political career to an abrupt end. For the first time in British history, the highest court in the land has publicly called out a sitting Prime Minister for serious financial misconduct, shattering expectations and sending shockwaves through the political establishment. The case, which has been brewing for over a year, revolves around allegations of undeclared luxury gifts, hidden land transactions, and a consistent pattern of financial concealment. The revelation has not only rocked the political landscape, but raised an uncomfortable question. Can Keir Starmer continue to lead, or has his leadership become untenable? The court's intervention was not the result of a partisan smear campaign or media gossip. It was the result of a year-long covert investigation into Starmer's financial dealings. Regulators had raised concerns about discrepancies in the Prime Minister's financial disclosures, prompting a closer look at his assets and income. The findings were damning. Among the most startling revelations were luxury gifts worth thousands of pounds, which Starmer had failed to declare, and land deals that raised serious questions about transparency and ethics. But the most shocking detail was the report's accusation that Starmer's actions weren't merely negligent, they were deliberate. His financial conduct, the court stated, wasn't simply a matter of oversight, it was a carefully crafted attempt to hide the truth. Dame Sue Carr, the Chief Justice of the UK Supreme Court, delivered the statement in a calm but unflinching tone, carefully outlining the financial irregularities in Starmer's records. The implications of her words were clear. The Prime Minister had not only misled the public, but may have violated ethical standards that are foundational to democratic governance. The court's decision to publicly reprimand Starmer was a stark departure from the usual quiet impartiality of the British judiciary. In a country where judicial independence is fiercely protected, this intervention marked a turning point, one that could have far-reaching consequences for Starmer and the future of his government. The accusations against Starmer have caused an immediate political firestorm. For the first time, the Prime Minister is under fire from every corner of the political spectrum. The Labour Party, his own party, has been thrown into disarray. Senior figures within the party are now questioning whether Starmer can continue to hold the office of Prime Minister, and some are even demanding his resignation. In the midst of this growing turmoil, Starmer remains defiant, but the walls are closing in. His political career is now hanging in the balance, and the stakes have never been higher. As the details of the Supreme Court's investigation into Keir Starmer's financial dealings come to light, the evidence paints a damning picture of a man who, for years, has operated with a troubling disregard for transparency and accountability. The case revolves around a series of serious allegations that have now been confirmed through both judicial inquiry and leaked documents. The most striking of these accusations is the Prime Minister's acceptance of luxury gifts and other high-value items from Lord Wahid Ali, a powerful Labour donor with significant political and financial influence. These gifts, totalling over $39,000, included custom-tailored suits, designer accessories, first-class flights, and private dining experiences at exclusive venues. Initially, Starmer had downplayed these gifts as ceremonial and inconsequential. However, a thorough examination of email correspondence between Starmer and Ali suggests a far more personal and transactional nature to these exchanges. In one of the most revealing instances, Starmer wrote to Ali, praising the quality of a bespoke Italian suit, referring to it as fit for a victory speech, just days before delivering a speech at the 2023 Labour Party conference, where he unveiled a set of tax reforms. These tax reforms, coincidentally, seem to benefit several of Ali's business interests, particularly those in the media and tech industries. Critics of Starmer have pointed to this moment as an example of potential influence peddling, where luxury gifts were exchanged alongside policy favours. While the court stopped short of labelling these exchanges as outright bribery, it did accuse Starmer of breaching parliamentary ethics and undermining the public trust that is essential to the integrity of the office of the Prime Minister. The court's findings go far beyond the gifts themselves. The investigation revealed a pattern of behaviour that extended to Starmer's personal financial dealings. According to the leaked court documents, Starmer had underreported personal profits and failed to disclose income from property rentals and investments, all of which are required to be made public under parliamentary rules. Perhaps most notably, the sale of land owned by Starmer's family in 2022 showed a $124,000 shortfall, a discrepancy that has yet to be fully explained by his legal team. The court expressed particular concern over the consistent failure to report these assets accurately, which, they argue, could be indicative of a broader strategy to avoid public scrutiny and evade legal requirements. In legal terms, this was not simply a case of negligence. It was a clear and deliberate attempt to conceal material information from both the public and regulatory authorities. The court's decision to release such explosive details publicly signals a significant shift in how the British judiciary views the role of politicians and their financial conduct. For years, the UK political establishment has relied on a relatively lenient approach when it comes to the financial disclosures of public figures. While these disclosures are legally required, enforcement has historically been lax, with many politicians, including those in high office, skirting the edges of transparency without facing serious repercussions. The Supreme Court's intervention has shattered that complacency, with the judiciary sending a clear message that such practices will no longer be tolerated at the highest levels of government. The political fallout from these revelations has been swift and brutal. Across the UK, news outlets have been filled with footage of Starmer's public address at 10 Downing Street, where he was confronted with questions about the scandal. In a tense and evasive press conference, Starmer denied any wrongdoing and dismissed the Supreme Court's intervention as politically motivated. His refusal to step down, despite the overwhelming evidence against him, has only fueled the growing sense of betrayal among both the public and members of his own party. Labour Party MPs, many of whom had once been Starmer's staunchest allies, are now publicly distancing themselves from the embattled Prime Minister. Even more alarmingly for Starmer, a significant number of Labour's grassroots supporters are beginning to question his ability to lead, with some calling for a leadership contest to find a successor who can restore the party's credibility. The FI situation is further complicated by the increasing division within the party itself. Long-time Labour supporters are split over whether Starmer should resign immediately or continue to fight the charges. Some see his resignation as inevitable, given the overwhelming weight of the evidence and the damage it has done to his credibility. Others, however, argue that Starmer should be allowed to clear his name in the face of what they perceive as a politically motivated attack. This divide has led to an unprecedented crisis within the Labour Party, one that has brought its leadership into disarray. Backbenchers who once supported Starmer's vision for the party are now among the loudest voices calling for his removal, and the possibility of a snap leadership contest is becoming more likely with each passing day. While Starmer's political future hangs in the balance, the broader implications of this scandal are just beginning to unfold. Public trust in the UK's political system is at an all-time low, and the court's intervention has only deepened the sense of disillusionment among many voters. The question now is not just whether Keir Starmer will survive this crisis, but whether the UK political establishment will ever be the same. If Starmer does step down, the fallout from his resignation could trigger a broader reckoning with the financial practices of politicians and the role of the judiciary in overseeing their conduct. The coming days and weeks will be crucial in determining not just Starmer's fate, but the future of British politics as a whole. The Supreme Court's ruling has opened Pandora's box, and it's clear that Starmer's financial misconduct is just the tip of the iceberg. As more details continue to emerge, the full scale of the scandal remains unclear, but one thing is certain: the UK's political landscape will never be the same. Whether Starmer can hold on to power or will be forced to step down is a question that will dominate headlines for months to come. For now, though, the UK's highest court has made it clear that the days of political leaders hiding behind veils of secrecy are over. The age of accountability has arrived. In the wake of the Supreme Court's scathing rebuke of Keir Starmer, the political repercussions have spread like wildfire, igniting a firestorm within the Labour Party and across the British political spectrum. The Prime Minister's defiance in the face of overwhelming evidence of financial misconduct has led to an erosion of support, not only from the public, but also from his own party members. What was once considered a well-constructed political career is now seen by many as a house of cards, teetering on the edge of collapse. The revelations have triggered an unprecedented wave of criticism, dissent and division, setting the stage for a potential leadership crisis that could engulf the party at its core. While the Supreme Court's decision to publicly condemn Starmer has certainly shaken the political establishment, it is the internal strife within Labour that has the potential to bring about the most significant change. The party's traditionally disciplined structure is now splintering under the weight of the scandal. Labour MPs, who had once rallied behind Starmer's leadership and his promise of progressive reform, are now grappling with a profound sense of betrayal. Many had invested their political futures in his leadership, believing in his vision for a revitalised Labour Party, but now face the harsh reality that their leader has been accused of serious ethical breaches. The disillusionment is not just confined to the corridors of Westminster. Constituents who had supported Labour through thick and thin are now questioning whether Starmer's leadership is representative of the values they hold dear. Long-time voters are dismayed by the allegations, feeling that their party has strayed too far from its roots, prioritising personal gain over public service. The backlash is becoming louder as former supporters voice their disappointment across social media and at town halls, demanding accountability from the party leadership. What has made matters worse is the palpable sense of indecision within the Labour ranks. Starmer's refusal to step down despite the growing public pressure has left his party in limbo. On one hand, party loyalists continue to rally behind their leader, framing the situation as a politically motivated attack designed to undermine Labour's chances of regaining power. These defenders argue that the Supreme Court's intervention was overblown, dismissing it as an unwarranted political manoeuvre aimed at destabilising the government. On the other hand, a growing faction within the party is calling for Starmer's resignation, citing his inability to restore public trust as the primary reason for his departure. The conflict between these two factions is beginning to tear at the seams of the Labour Party, with no clear path forward emerging. One of the most significant indicators of Labour's growing divide is the public silence of many of Starmer's closest allies. Several senior figures within the party, who once stood firmly by his side, have begun to distance themselves from the embattled Prime Minister. Some have offered tepid support, stating that Starmer must be given a fair opportunity to clear his name, while others have been conspicuously quiet, refusing to comment on the crisis engulfing their leader. This silence speaks volumes, as it highlights a lack of unity and a growing reluctance to associate with a leader who is increasingly seen as a liability. As the weeks go on, it seems likely that more high-profile Labour MPs will begin to speak out against Starmer, further weakening his position within the party. The political landscape outside Labour is equally tumultuous. The opposition parties have seized on Starmer's scandal as an opportunity to undermine the Prime Minister and gain ground in the polls. The Conservative Party, which has long struggled with its own internal divisions, has found itself in a stronger position than it has been in years. Conservative MPs are now openly calling for Starmer's resignation, framing the scandal as a reflection of the broader corruption within the Labour Party. Their criticism is amplified by the ongoing fallout from Starmer's refusal to accept the Supreme Court's findings, portraying him as someone who is out of touch with the needs and expectations of the British people. The Liberal Democrats have also joined the fray, calling for an emergency session of Parliament to address the scandal and demanding that Starmer step down immediately. Their leaders have used the crisis to paint Labour as a party mired in scandal and incompetence, further eroding Starmer's credibility in the eyes of the public. Meanwhile, the Reform Party has sought to capitalise on Labour's turmoil, positioning itself as a credible alternative for voters disillusioned with both the Labour and Conservative parties. This fragmentation of the political opposition could have far-reaching consequences, as the electorate's trust in the traditional parties continues to erode. For Keir Starmer, the days ahead will be critical. His failure to decisively respond to the scandal has left him exposed on all sides. While he has shown no signs of stepping down voluntarily, the pressure from his own party, the public, and the media will likely become unbearable. Starmer's fate is increasingly in the hands of Labour MPs, who must now decide whether they will continue to stand behind him or take matters into their own hands. As whispers of a potential leadership contest grow louder, the question remains whether Starmer can recover from this scandal and restore his credibility, or if the damage is too great for him to salvage his position at the top of the Labour Party. The political implications of this scandal go far beyond the immediate future of Keir Starmer. This crisis marks a turning point in British politics, one that may forever alter the way politicians are held accountable for their financial dealings. The public's trust in the political system has been deeply shaken, and the scandal has exposed the vulnerability of even the highest office in the land. As the scandal continues to unfold, it is clear that the fallout will reverberate throughout the political system for years to come, reshaping not just Labour, but the broader political landscape in the UK. The question now is whether the British electorate will demand a new kind of leadership, one that values transparency, integrity, and accountability above all else. Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the days of unchecked political power are numbered. The financial misconduct allegations against Prime Minister Keir Starmer, coupled with the unprecedented public rebuke from the UK's highest court, have raised profound legal and ethical questions that extend far beyond the immediate political implications. The court's ruling has introduced a level of legal complexity that challenges the very nature of accountability for elected officials, as well as the role of the judiciary in overseeing the actions of government leaders. What initially seemed like a political scandal has now evolved into a constitutional crisis, with some legal experts suggesting that this could fundamentally alter the relationship between the branches of government in the UK. Others, however, argue that the court's intervention is little more than a politically motivated manoeuvre designed to destabilise a government already under pressure. As the legal dimensions of the scandal unfold, one thing is clear: the question of whether Starmer's actions constitute a breach of the constitutional norms that govern British politics will be a defining feature of this crisis. At the heart of the controversy lies the Supreme Court's decision to publicly accuse Starmer of financial misconduct, a move that is both unprecedented and legally charged. The UK's legal system, long known for its measured and restrained approach to political matters, has now thrust itself into the political spotlight in a way that many experts argue is unparalleled in modern history. Historically, the judiciary in the UK has been loath to involve itself directly in political disputes, preferring instead to operate within the confines of the law and avoid commentary on the personal conduct of politicians. However, in this case, the court's intervention has been seen as both necessary and inevitable, given the gravity of the allegations and the potential for long-term damage to the integrity of the office of the Prime Minister. The court's decision to publicly expose Starmer's financial transgressions, which include underreported income, undisclosed gifts, and a failure to declare property profits, has not only shaken the political establishment, but also forced a public reckoning on the ethics of financial transparency within government. The Supreme Court's ruling is grounded in a core principle of democratic governance: the need for transparency and accountability from those who hold power. The idea that a sitting Prime Minister could conceal significant financial dealings without facing consequences is, to many, a direct affront to the values of integrity and public trust that form the foundation of British democracy. The court's statement that Starmer's actions constitute a deliberate attempt to evade scrutiny is a sharp reminder of the importance of honesty and full disclosure in public office. According to legal experts, the court's intervention goes beyond the specifics of Starmer's case and highlights a broader concern about the lack of financial oversight and accountability within the political elite. In this sense, the ruling could serve as a wake-up call for other public officials who have long skirted ethical boundaries without fear of legal repercussions. While the legal implications of the case are significant, the ethical dimensions of the scandal are equally troubling. The allegations that Starmer received over $39,000 in luxury gifts from influential Labour donors, including custom suits, Rolex watches, and first-class travel perks, have raised concerns about the potential for quid pro quo arrangements between politicians and wealthy benefactors. While no direct evidence of bribery has emerged, the sheer scale of the gifts and the timing of their delivery, coinciding with policy decisions that appear to favour certain business interests, have cast a shadow of doubt over Starmer's actions. The fact that Starmer initially dismissed these gifts as ceremonial or unrelated to his political duties has only served to deepen the suspicion surrounding his conduct. Leaked emails and personal correspondence between Starmer and his donors suggest a more complex and potentially compromising relationship than was originally acknowledged. The ethical concerns surrounding this case are compounded by the broader context of growing public disillusionment with the political class, as many see Starmer's actions as emblematic of a broader culture of corruption and privilege within the British political system. The legal fallout from the scandal is also significant, as it raises questions about the accountability mechanisms available to the public and the limits of judicial power in holding politicians accountable. In the UK, the judiciary has traditionally operated within a framework of limited intervention in political matters, with the belief that elected officials should be held accountable primarily through the electoral process. However, the scale of the financial misconduct allegations against Starmer, coupled with the lack of transparency in his financial dealings, has led to calls for stronger mechanisms to ensure accountability at the highest levels of government. While the court's rebuke is not legally binding, it has sent a clear signal to both the Prime Minister and the public that the legal system is willing to challenge political figures when their actions violate the principles of democratic governance. Some legal scholars have suggested that this case could set a precedent for greater judicial oversight of financial dealings in politics, particularly in light of growing concerns about the influence of money in politics and the potential for conflicts of interest. However, there are those who argue that the court's involvement in this case represents a dangerous overreach of judicial power. Critics of the Supreme Court's ruling contend that the decision is politically motivated and reflects a broader attempt to weaken the Labour Party and undermine its leader. From this perspective, the court's intervention is seen as a form of political theatre designed to further destabilise an already fragile government. These critics argue that the judiciary should remain impartial and refrain from making judgments about the conduct of politicians, particularly when those judgments are based on subjective ethical considerations rather than clear legal violations. The idea that the court could effectively decide the future of a sitting Prime Minister, some argue, undermines the democratic principle that political leadership should be determined by the will of the people, not the judiciary. The divide between those who view the court's ruling as a necessary check on executive power and those who see it as an unwarranted intrusion into the political process is likely to intensify in the coming weeks. What is clear, however, is that the fallout from this legal intervention is far from over. The UK political system is at a crossroads, with the balance of power between the judiciary, the executive, and the electorate being called into question. The Starmer scandal has opened a Pandora's box of legal and ethical concerns that may take years to fully resolve. As the legal challenges and political fallout continue to unfold, the UK must grapple with the deeper implications of this crisis, not only for the future of the Labour Party, but for the integrity of the nation's democratic institutions as a whole. Ultimately, whether this scandal becomes a defining moment in the history of UK politics, or merely a temporary crisis, will depend on the actions of the public, the legal system, and the political leaders who are now caught in the crossfire. The ethical questions raised by Starmer's actions are unlikely to dissipate anytime soon, and the legal precedents set by the Supreme Court's ruling will have lasting consequences for the way politicians are held accountable in the future. The crisis surrounding Keir Starmer's financial misconduct is far from over, and its resolution will likely shape the course of British politics for years to come. The political ramifications of the scandal involving Prime Minister Keir Starmer have reverberated across the UK's political landscape, significantly altering public perception and reshaping party dynamics. As the legal drama unfolds, the political consequences have been swift and far-reaching, with public opinion sharply divided over Starmer's conduct and the broader implications for his leadership. In many ways, the scandal has exposed the fault lines within the Labour Party, revealing deep divisions between those who continue to rally behind Starmer and those who are now calling for his resignation. While some within the party argue that the accusations are politically motivated and part of a concerted effort to discredit the Labour leader, others believe that his ability to lead has been irreparably damaged, regardless of the legal outcome. Public opinion on Starmer's actions remains polarised, with some seeing him as a victim of a political witch hunt, while others view his alleged financial misconduct as indicative of a deeper culture of corruption within the British political establishment. The Labour Party, once united under Starmer's leadership, has now been forced into a state of internal strife, as factions within the party question whether he can continue to lead effectively. In the wake of the Supreme Court's ruling, many Labour MPs and members of the party's inner circle have been reluctant to voice full support for their leader. The accusations of financial misconduct, coupled with the court's stern rebuke, have cast a shadow over Starmer's political future. For some members of the Labour Party, the scandal is seen as a major setback to the party's credibility, particularly as it had hoped to offer a clean break from the controversies and scandals of previous administrations. The revelation of Starmer's financial dealings has complicated the narrative of transparency and accountability that he had campaigned on, leaving many to question whether his leadership is still viable in the long term. The internal divisions within the Labour Party have only been exacerbated by this crisis, with senior figures such as shadow cabinet members now facing pressure from their constituents and the media to distance themselves from Starmer's tarnished leadership. For the opposition parties, particularly the Conservative Party, the scandal presents an opportunity to capitalise on Labour's disarray and to further discredit Starmer's leadership. The Conservatives, who have been facing their own set of challenges, including ongoing allegations of corruption and economic mismanagement, have been quick to exploit the situation. Critics from the right have seized upon the scandal as evidence of the Labour Party's inability to govern with integrity, framing it as yet another example of a political elite that is out of touch with the needs of the British public. The Conservatives have demanded that Starmer resign immediately, arguing that his actions represent a betrayal of the public trust. Many within the party have called for an early general election, hoping to gain the upper hand while the Labour Party is in turmoil. Conservative leadership has also sought to portray Starmer as a figure who is unable to lead the country, pointing to his alleged financial misconduct as proof that he is not fit for office. The Conservative Party's response to the scandal has been both swift and aggressive, with a concerted effort to amplify the narrative that Starmer's leadership is fundamentally compromised. However, the Labour Party's response to the crisis has been mixed. While some MPs have continued to support Starmer, emphasising his long history of public service and his commitment to the party's values, others have expressed growing concerns about his ability to lead the nation through such a divisive issue. Publicly, Starmer has continued to defend himself, insisting that he has done nothing wrong and that the legal challenges are politically motivated attacks designed to undermine his leadership. His supporters within the party have maintained that the court's decision is a reflection of the growing political divide in the UK, with the judiciary being drawn into political battles in ways that have never been seen before. Despite his defiant stance, however, Starmer's credibility among the British public has taken a hit, and many wonder whether he can recover from this scandal in time to mount a successful challenge to the Conservative government. Public opinion on the matter has been sharply divided, with polling data showing that the scandal has significantly eroded Starmer's popularity. According to recent surveys, a majority of the UK public now believes that Starmer should step down from his position as Prime Minister, citing the ethical and legal implications of the allegations. Many voters, particularly those from working class and disenfranchised communities, have expressed frustration over what they perceive as yet another example of the political elite exploiting their position for personal gain. These sentiments have led to a surge in support for opposition parties, with the Liberal Democrats and other smaller political groups gaining traction among voters who are disillusioned with both Labour and the Conservatives. While Starmer's approval ratings have fallen sharply, the extent to which this scandal will affect Labour's prospects in the next general election remains to be seen. The media has played a crucial role in shaping public perception of the scandal, with constant coverage of the allegations, court rulings and political fallout. Headlines decrying Starmer's financial misconduct have been accompanied by calls for accountability, with various news outlets questioning the future of his leadership. While some media outlets have maintained a degree of impartiality, others have been quick to label Starmer as corrupt and unfit for office, further fueling the narrative that the Labour leader is a man of questionable integrity. This media frenzy has only added to the sense of crisis surrounding the Prime Minister, with many in the public feeling as though the scandal has overshadowed important national issues such as economic recovery, healthcare and education. For Starmer, the damage done by the constant media scrutiny has been substantial, and his ability to control the narrative around the scandal has been diminished as the story continues to evolve. The question of whether Starmer can weather the political storm and emerge from this crisis stronger than before remains uncertain. His political future hinges not only on the outcome of legal challenges, but also on his ability to maintain support within his own party and the broader public. Whether the scandal will ultimately lead to his resignation, or whether he will be able to rally the Labour Party around him in the face of mounting pressure, is a question that will dominate UK politics in the months to come. As the legal and political battles unfold, the nation watches closely, and the future of the UK's political landscape hangs in the balance. As the controversy surrounding Prime Minister Keir Starmer continues to unfold, the political landscape of the UK is being reshaped. With public opinion sharply divided and the Labour Party facing unprecedented internal challenges, it is more important than ever for citizens to stay informed and engaged. The implications of this scandal go beyond Starmer's leadership, touching on the integrity of the UK's political system as a whole. Now is the time to join the conversation, share your opinions, and demand accountability from those in power. Whether you're a Labour Party supporter, a Conservative or an independent voter, your voice matters. Stay up to date with the latest developments, participate in the ongoing debates, and make your voice heard in the democratic process. Be sure to engage with media outlets, follow trusted news sources, and take part in discussions that will shape the future of the UK. The outcome of this scandal will have lasting effects on the nation's political trajectory, and your involvement is key to ensuring transparency and accountability. What do you think? Should Keir Starmer resign, or can he recover from this crisis? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below and share this video with others to keep the conversation going.